May 29th, 1980. 4:30 in the morning. Firefighters in Santa Ana, California respond to a vehicle fire in an alley off South Townsend Street. When they extinguish the flames, they find a white 1973 Toyota station wagon. The driver's side doors open, headlights still on. The interior is completely destroyed. But here's what makes this case truly terrifying. Just 5 hours earlier, this car had been sitting in a hospital parking lot in Irvine, and the woman who drove it there had vanished into thin air. Her name was Dorothy Jane Scott, and what happened to her would haunt her family for 4 years, with weekly phone calls from the man who took her. If you're still watching up to this moment, hit the like button. This case has some twists you won't want to miss. Let me tell you about Dorothy Jane Scott. Dorothy Jane Scott was born April 23, 1948, in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. By 1908, she was 32 years old and living in Stanton, California, with her 4-year-old son, Sean, and her aunt. Dorothy worked as a secretary for 2 jointly owned businesses in Anaheim, Swinger's Psych Shop and Custom John's Head Shop. Her coworkers described her as dependable, caring, and deeply dedicated to her son. She was a devout Christian and a homebody. She didn't drink, didn't go to bars, and spent most of her free time with family. By all accounts, Dorothy lived a quiet, simple life. But in early 1980, someone became obsessed with her. It started with phone calls at work, anonymous, disturbing. The caller would alternate between professing his love for Dorothy and threatening to kill her. He told her, "I will cut you up into bits so no one will ever find you." But here's what made it truly terrifying. This wasn't just some random creep. The caller knew things. He knew what Dorothy was wearing that day, where she'd been, what she was doing. He was watching her. One day, he told her to look outside. When she did, she found a single dead red rose on her windshield. Dorothy told her family she thought the voice sounded familiar, but she couldn't place it. She was scared enough to start taking karate lessons for self-defense about a week before she disappeared. But she never reported the calls to police, and that decision may have cost her everything. Would you have gone to the police? Let us know in the comments. Neutral timeline tone. May 28, 1980, 9 p.m. Dorothy is at work for an employee meeting. That's when she notices her coworker Conrad Bostron looking seriously ill. He has a strange red mark on his arm, and he's clearly in pain. Without hesitation, Dorothy volunteers to drive Conrad to UC Irvine Medical Center. Another coworker, Pam Head, comes along. On the way to the hospital, Dorothy makes a quick stop at her parents' house to check on her son. While she's there, she changes scarves from black to red. Small detail, but it becomes important later. At the hospital, Conrad is diagnosed with a black widow bite and treated. Dorothy and Pam wait in the waiting room. According to Pam, Dorothy never left her side the entire time they were there. Around 11 p.m., Conrad is discharged with a prescription. And this is where everything goes horribly wrong. Dorothy offers to bring the car around so Conrad doesn't have to walk on his injured leg. She uses the restroom quickly, then heads for the parking lot. Pam and Conrad fill the prescription and wait at the hospital exit. A few minutes pass, then a few more. Suddenly, they see Dorothy's white Toyota station wagon speeding towards them. The headlights are on high beams, blinding them. They start waving their arms, expecting Dorothy to stop. But the car doesn't stop. It speeds right past them and takes a sharp right turn out of the parking lot, disappearing into the night. Pam and Conrad are confused. They assume something must have happened, maybe an emergency with Dorothy's son. They wait. They try calling. No answer. A few hours later, they report Dorothy missing. Serious. At approximately 4:30 a.m. on May 29th, just hours after Dorothy vanished, firefighters discover her car burning in an alley in Santa Ana, about 10 miles from the hospital. The driver's side door is open. Headlights are still on. A gas canister is found in the trunk. Someone used an accelerant on the passenger side. The entire interior is destroyed. And here's a crucial detail. Investigators find a pack of Marlboro cigarettes and a box of tissues near where the car was parked. Dorothy didn't smoke. There's no sign of Dorothy. No sign of whoever took her. She had simply vanished. This case takes an even darker turn.
About a week after Dorothy disappeared, her mother, Vera, received a phone call. A man's voice asked, "Are you related to Dorothy Scott?" When Vera said yes, the caller simply said, "I've got her," and hung up. On June 12, 1980, the Orange County Register ran a story about Dorothy's disappearance. That same day, the newspaper's managing editor, Pat Riley, received a phone call. The caller said, "I killed her. I killed Dorothy Scott. She was my love. I caught her cheating with another man. She denied having someone else. I killed her." But here's what proves this wasn't a hoax. The caller knew details that hadn't been published. He knew about Conrad's spider bite. He knew about the red scarf Dorothy had been wearing. He also claimed Dorothy had called him from the hospital, though Pam Head insists Dorothy never left her side and never made any calls. This was him, the stalker, the killer. And he was just getting started. For the next 4 years, the Scott family received phone calls almost every Wednesday afternoon. The caller would alternate his story, sometimes claiming he still had Dorothy, sometimes claiming he'd killed her. The calls were always brief. At the time, call tracing required longer calls and was far less advanced than today. Police installed a tone tap and recording equipment. It didn't help. The calls usually came when Vera was home alone, like he was watching, like he knew. Then, in April 1984, something changed. Dorothy's father, Jacob, answered the phone for the first time. The caller heard a man's voice, and the calls suddenly stopped. 4 months later, on August 6, 1984, a construction worker was preparing to lay telephone cables near Santa Ana Canyon Road in Anaheim Hills, miles from where her car had been burned. About 30 feet from the road, he discovered human bones, and next to them, dog bones, both partially charred. Along with the remains, investigators found a turquoise ring in a watch. The watch had stopped at 12:30 a.m. on May 29, 1980, approximately 1 hour after Dorothy was last seen. On August 14, 1984, the remains were positively identified through dental records. Dorothy Jane Scott had been found. By the time Dorothy was finally found, her son Sean was no longer a little boy waiting for his mother to come home. He had grown up with nothing but questions. On August 22nd, her family held a memorial service. Her brother Jim delivered the eulogy. Because of the deterioration of the remains and a bushfire that had swept the area in 1982, investigators couldn't determine a cause of death. And then, the calls started again. This time, the caller would simply ask, "Is Dorothy home?" before hanging up. Eventually, the calls stopped for good. So who killed Dorothy Jane Scott? Police quickly eliminated Dorothy's ex-partner and Sean's father, Dennis Terry. He had an alibi. He was in Missouri at the time. Dorothy wasn't known to have a steady boyfriend. She lived a quiet life focused on work and her son. Over the years, true crime researchers have discussed a potential suspect named Michael Butler, allegedly an unstable individual who lived in the Santiago Mountains and may have been involved in cult activity. His sister reportedly worked with Dorothy. But this has never been confirmed by police. No one has ever been named as a suspect or person of interest. The anonymous caller is believed to be the killer, but his identity remains unknown. Let's look at what we know for certain. 1. Someone stalked Dorothy for months, demonstrating intimate knowledge of her daily life. 2. Some sources say witnesses couldn't see the driver clearly because of the high beams. 3. The car was found burning hours later, 10 miles away. 4. The killer confessed to a newspaper, revealing unpublished details. 5. He tormented her family with calls for 4 years. 6. Dorothy's remains were found with dog bones. Some investigators have suggested this may have been an attempt to confuse police dogs, but this was never confirmed. 7. Her watch stopped at 12:30 a.m., approximately 1 hour after the abduction. What we don't know: how did he get Dorothy's car keys? Was she forced into another vehicle? Where was she during those 4 years of calls? Was she alive? And most importantly, who was he? What do you think happened? Drop your theories in the comments below and make sure you've hit the bell icon. Today, Dorothy Jane Scott's murder remains unsolved. The case is handled by the Orange County Sheriff's Department Homicide Task Force. Dorothy's son Sean grew up without his mother. Her family spent decades living in fear, never knowing when that phone would ring. With advances in DNA technology and forensic genealogy, there's still hope this case could be solved. There may have been usable evidence left behind, including cigarettes near the car. The killer burned the car and called repeatedly. Somewhere, someone knows who he is. Someone recognizes that voice. Someone knows what happened to Dorothy Jane Scott. If you have any information about Dorothy Jane Scott's disappearance and murder, please contact the Orange County Sheriff's Office at 714-647-7000. Dorothy deserves justice. Her family deserves answers. If you want to see more unsolved cases like this, check out our playlist on cold cases. I've covered other mysterious disappearances. Links are in the description. Thank you for watching. And remember, someone out there knows what happened. The truth is still waiting to be discovered.
November 30th, 1980. Atlanta, Georgia. A mother tucks her 2 young sons into bed. She kisses them goodnight. She tells them she'll see them in the morning. She never comes home. 4 days later, police find her car in a motel parking lot across Atlanta, far from her neighborhood. When they open the trunk, they discover her body, naked, lifeless, hidden like she was nothing. Her name was Faye Jackson Dollar. She was 38 years old, a mathematics teacher, a devoted mother, a woman in the middle of a bitter divorce. And her killer was never caught. This is her story. Before we talk about how Faye Dollar died, we need to understand who she was when she was alive.
Faye Jackson was born on March 8, 1942. She grew up to become a mathematics teacher at Feldwood High School in College Park, Georgia, a school now known as Benjamin Banneker High School. By all accounts, Faye was dedicated to her students and her work. She loved teaching. She was known as warm, caring, and dependable. But at home, things were far from peaceful. Faye had been married to Donald Dollar for approximately 13 years. They had 2 sons together, Chad and Cameron. By 1980, the marriage had become deeply troubled. Friends and family later described it as marked by frequent arguments and escalating tension. Tension that never seemed to ease. In September of 1980, Faye's divorce from Donald was finalized. She was granted full custody of their 2 boys. It wasn't amicable. It was bitter. And for Faye, the legal battle may have been over, but the emotional fallout was just beginning. Still, Faye pushed forward. She focused on her children, on her work, on building a new life. She had no idea how little time she had left.
Before we continue, if you believe stories like Faye's deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Cases like this don't stay in the public eye without people like you keeping them alive. November 30th, 1980. A Sunday night. Faye Dollar is at home with her 2 sons. She tucks them into bed, reads them a story, tells them goodnight. According to Sun reports, Faye may have received a phone call shortly before leaving. Investigators have never publicly confirmed who called her or if the call was ever traced. She's wearing a red dress. Her hair is set in curlers. She takes her car, a 1972 Monte Carlo, and drives off into the night. She never comes back to her 2 children. December 1st, 1980, Monday morning. Faye doesn't show up for work. Her colleagues at Feldwood High School are immediately concerned. This isn't like her. Faye is dependable. She doesn't just disappear. Her family reports her missing. Her car is gone. Her sons are confused, frightened. Where is their mother? For 3 days, there are no answers, no sightings, no real clues. And then, on the evening of December 4th, everything changes. Officer J.A. Swope of the Atlanta Police Department is patrolling near the Admiral Benbow Inn on Spring Street. He notices a 1972 Monte Carlo in the parking lot. Something about it stands out. He runs the plates. It's registered to Faye Dollar. The doors are locked. Nothing seems out of place. Then, he opens the trunk. Inside, face down atop a spare tire, is Faye's naked body. Her hair is still in curlers. She's wearing a gold necklace, but the red dress she left home wearing is gone. Nothing suggests a robbery. Her jewelry is still on her body. Her car shows no obvious signs of forced entry. Faye Jackson Dollar had been murdered. That same night, her children were asleep at home, possibly alone for a period of time. If this case is affecting you, leave a comment below. And if you're just joining us, make sure you're subscribed. Your engagement helps stories like this stay alive. The autopsy revealed grim details. Cause of death? Blunt force trauma to the head.
Faye had been struck behind her left ear with a blunt object, something heavy enough to kill. The medical examiner determined she had been dead for 2 to 4 days before discovery. That places her death very close to the night she disappeared. So who did this, and why? Police questioned Donald Dollar, Faye's ex-husband. The divorce had been bitter. Custody had been contested. Donald was questioned, but never officially named a suspect. There was not enough evidence to charge him. Still, suspicion lingered. For years, he lived under a cloud of doubt, never arrested, never fully cleared. As weeks turned into months, the investigation lost momentum. No witnesses, no murder weapon, and the red dress Faye wore that night was never found.
Then came the Atlanta child murders. Between 1979 and 1981, at least 28 black children and young adults were killed. The city was overwhelmed, resources stretched thin, media attention consumed. Faye Dollar's case faded into the background, another cold case in a city drowning in tragedy. Her sons grew up without answers, without justice, without their mother. Here's something disturbing. If you visit the Atlanta Police Department's cold case website today, you'll find an entry for Faye Dollar. But there's a serious error. It lists her discovery date is December 4th, 2014, more than 30 years after her actual death. Contemporary reporting from the Atlanta Constitution confirms she was found in December of 1980. Errors like this show how easily older cases, especially those involving black women, can slip through the cracks. More than 44 years have passed, and we still don't know who called Faye that night. Where was she going? Who did she meet? Why was her body left in a motel parking lot across the city? What happened to the red dress? And most importantly, who killed Faye Dollar? The real tragedy isn't just that a woman was murdered. It's that 2 little boys went to bed believing their mother would be there in the morning. She wasn't, and no one has ever been held accountable. Faye Dollar was 38 years old, a mother of 2, a mathematics teacher, a woman trying to rebuild her life. On November 30th, 1980, she tucked her sons into bed and never came home. 4 days later, her body was found in the trunk of her own car. Her killer has never been caught. If you have any information about this case, the Atlanta Police Department's Cold Case Unit is still accepting tips. You can remain anonymous. Faye's story stays alive because people refuse to forget. Rest in power, Faye Dollar. Your story will not be forgotten.